Hey, everybody. Today is a great day. We got three amigos in here, and we're here for a podcast. Have you ever heard of that uncle that is at Christmas that you probably just had? And and he always starts a horrible joke and says, "Hey, these three guys walk into a bar." Well, I found two other guys, and this is the three podcasters walk into the bar. My name's Stu Turley, President and CEO of the Sandstone Group. And my podcast is actually called the Energy News Beat Podcast. And I've got coming around the corner, I've got David Blackman. And I always say the David Blackman because he's the only one that I care to hang out with. And he is a Forbes contributing author. Well, I can't even speak. I must have too much sugar in my blood here. And David, you've got two podcasts. You're on the Energy Transfer with Armand and Irina. And then you have the Energy Question, which is just a fabulous production. It's really getting some traction, and congratulations and welcome.
Well, it's wonderful. It's been fun doing those. And thank you for playing host to the Energy Question and to the Energy Transition podcast.
Oh, they're absolutely wonderful. And coming around the corner at warp speed, I'm not sure if he's a full thoroughbred, but he is the RT Trevino, and he's got the Crude Truth. And believe it or not, RT is also an EMP executive with Pecos Operating Corporation. And I've had the pleasure of working with RT on some projects, but RT is also well known, and he's just now hit the top 25 in some of the reviews out there for the Crude Truth. We got to give you a shout out there, RT.
Oh, thank you. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Well, great to be back. I am excited. We're kicking it off. I'm here with two, and I will say two of the smartest guys around that I personally know in the oil and gas industry. I won't mention the guy that's written Pulitzer Prize winners like the prize because I haven't had the opportunity to meet him, Daniel Jurgen. But David and Stu, it's always great to be with you two that are just looking into the future, and y'all know what's in the crystal ball so many times that, again, David, when you write in Forbes or you're on the Energy Question, people stop and listen and make choices off of what you say and how they move forward. So again, great to be here. Great to be here.
Thank you, RT. They don't know him very well, do they?
Yeah, boy.
Well, guys, real quick, how was your Christmas? David, you had a lot of family, and did any of your uncles come in and start a bad joke?
No, I've only got one living uncle left, and he's older than I am, so he stays pretty close to home these days down in South Texas. But yeah, I got to spend so much time with family. It was just wonderful over the holidays. And
well, RT's the only one with uncles that are younger than he is, so his family's inbred over there. So, RT, how was yours?
Boy, what an insult!
Oh man, it was good. We had it at my father's house there in Fort Worth, and I think at one point we had about 30 people over at the house, and just great and great blessings, and a really, really wonderful times. And this is my son's second Christmas. He's now just over one. So the first one, as my father-in-law said, he was really just a potato sitting there, last year. But this year, he was just so excited and got to open up gifts kind of sort of this year. But anyway, it was very, very good. I actually do have some older uncles than me. They're all some great uncles. They're actually my father's uncles. So they're 85, 90 years old. And they still sit back and say, I remember back in my day.
Oh, how fun. Aren't those great? Well, I got a few things I want to chat at, but I'll bring those up later. RT, you and I were chit-chatting with David just before this about some of the California stuff with our beloved Newsom. He's the gift that keeps on giving with entertainment. What did you have there?
Oh, I tell you, yes. No, we could go into so many different parts about just Governor Newsom over there. But right now, I was able to do some research and found out that he has been able to do some dare I say, wordplay, and that they are looking at a windfall profit tax, just like some of the other people. And again, I'm not for a windfall profit tax. Some of my compadres in the industry are. I'm not for it. However, what they've done is been able to change the words around that since it's a profit tax, that they would need a 2/3 vote yes in legislation to make that pass. And this was back in October that Governor Newsom mentioned this. Well, in the last few days, he has now begun to call it a civil penalty. That if these individuals, either make too much money, produce too much oil, too much gasoline at the refineries, that they will then get a civil penalty. And what's important about that is the language. And I kid you not, legal is legal, and good, bad, or indifferent. When you play the laws of this land the right way, things can always work in your favor. And this is one of those that I really wanted to bring up, that by them just changing the name to a civil penalty, they no longer need 2/3 vote in the legislation there in California to get this law passed. And that's very concerning, that you are able, again, good, bad, or indifferent, twist around the laws of the land to get what you want. And what this really is nothing more than another money grab from the government to supposedly go back and pay the people. But we all know that that's not going to happen. So I wanted to, there's my little 2 cents for the day.
Holy cow. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty clever, I guess. So you have to give him credit for being, malignantly clever. He's the gift that keeps on giving where entertainment's concerned, but he keeps on taking where money's concerned.
So
I mean, who gets to determine what's too much money?
Yeah.
I mean, who makes that decision? Who determines that?
Isn't the IRS going to go after $600 in Venmo or whatever your bank account is?
Yeah, any transaction over $600, they're gonna have reported directly to the IRS, which is
I saw a meme this morning that cracked me up. Ron Paul is going to Venmo Zelensky 601 cents so that he can get an audit on all of the money that went to Zelensky. Now that's a crude truth.
That is true. And David, you're also right. That is the question in speak here is, how much money is too much money? Look, at the end of the day, I may not agree with some of the famous people that are out there, like that are billionaires, like Mark Cuban, or even the new guy on Twitter, Elon Musk. Okay, but they created their own companies and did things to where they earned billions of dollars by their ingenuity, their creativity, and their teams, of course. Like, I don't want to discuss, but I'm not going to sit here and cry over the fact that they made too much money when they started that. So it's like, that's why I don't like the windfall profit tax. Like, I worked hard, and there are benefits to those. There are rewards to those benefits of working hard. So to sit there and once again try to grab all this extra cash, I am just totally against it all day, every day.
I guess I would take it seriously if I saw Governor Newsom and all these other Democrats advocating a windfall profit tax on oil, if they were advocating for a windfall profit tax on Pfizer and Moderna, who are the two most profitable corporations in American society the last couple of years, because the government has subsidized their efforts to force everyone to take these vaccines. But if a windfall profit tax is fair on oil producers who are supplying the product that runs our entire economy, then why isn't it fair for Pfizer and Moderna? I mean, this doesn't make any sense.
Boom. Absolutely. That is
fabulous.
great right there, David.
I'm getting my phone out so I can do a Zelle to what's that guy's name? Oh, he's the little short guy that's been not Zelensky, but Fauci. I'm going to send him a Venmo right now. And I'm going to send him a thing for $601 so I can get an audit on his books.
Yeah.
He's worth 5 million. He increased 5 million this year.
Hey, Nancy Pelosi's worth 185 million after a career in which she never made more than $180,000 in a year. So that's pretty good work if you can get it.
That's a good investment officer right there from Fidelity or one of those little.
Yeah, but isn't Paul Pelosi a new investor in a hammer company?
I was trying to figure out some way to tie something in there, but I could. That was good.
I'm not sure if it's a ball peen or a claw hammer. I'm not sure.
I think it was a claw, maybe a sledge.
Okay.
But no, I just wanted to mention it to bring it to everybody's attention to pay attention to the way things are worded and what it really means behind those words, because as California goes, a lot of other states in our great nation will also go, and people will be like, oh, it's a civil penalty. Well, that's okay. Well, it's really not a civil penalty. It's really them doing a windfall profit tax, taking money, out of the rich to give, doing a Robin Hood thing. But we all know it's really not going to the people. So.
R2. I mean, RT,
R2D2.
You were brilliant there, dude. And you didn't even sound like R2D2 with all the squeaking and everything. But what you really have there is not only those 17 states that will follow along. You nailed it, but it's also that carbon footprint that they're about to implement out there for you to have as a carbon footprint. And then they're going to say you can only have a Coke. For you, no Coke today, or you get a Coke depending on your carbon footprint. So, RT, you're brilliant. You did good.
We're all going to be like Pavlov's dog.
Furry?
Just responding to incentives,
Yeah, just responding to this. So that's it right there. I mean, if you want somebody to do that, get a Cocker Spaniel. If you want somebody just to, and that's what they're looking for. They want us. I love how people get off on a tangent. If nobody's ever read the book 1984 by George Orwell, right? They really need to read it, because the Democrats are quoting it left and right now, trying to use it. This is an Orwellian society that, and when you actually read the book and you have people that are truly, that read it, they understand. Hopefully that's like, wait a minute, this is the side that's trying to do what's done in this book. And it's called 1984, and it was written in, I believe, the 1930s.
Yeah, 30s or 40s. Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Gavin Newsom read that
II.
book and thought it was a user's manual.
Yes. Yeah. They probably did. But anyway, so. What else we got coming around the corner? I know I could talk about ERCOT. We could talk about anything else today.
ERCOT. Yes, let's talk about ERCOT in the recent big freeze that wasn't quite as bad as last year's.
Thank goodness for that. It was pretty cold, though. I know here in North Texas, we spent, 24 or 36 hours below freezing.
Yep.
And fortunately, everything seemed to be okay for the most part, I think. Nothing too crazy.
I was filming a podcast the other day, and my lights looked like I finally had to turn them off because they were going. I mean, it was actually very humorous. And my battery, I got UPSs all down here because of my 10 screens and 18 PCs. And I mean, my UPSs were going off like you wouldn't believe. Beep, 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 beep. I sounded like R2D2. I mean, it was awful. But ERCOT just, God bless them. It's the linemen and the oil guys out there. I believe that we had 70% natural gas powering us yesterday or day before.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
at
I
times.
drove to Abilene yesterday, and guys, 1 in 5 blades of the wind farms were barely turning. And they may have been accidental or something, but here's a sea if you get outside Abilene of a wind farm, nothing was coming out of it.
Yeah, what one thing most people don't understand about the big wind towers is that they have brakes on them when the wind is blowing too hard. They don't just fail when the wind's not blowing. If the wind's blowing too hard, they stop too, and so they don't generate anything. And that
Wow.
happened to us overnight Friday when the temperatures were at their lowest point. 92% of the power in Texas was being generated by natural gas, coal, or solar, or nuclear
Wow.
overnight. Zero by solar because the sun wasn't shining, and just 6% by wind because the wind was blowing too hard in most of West Texas.
Right.
And so, as always, when the weather is at its worst, renewables fail the worst, and that happened again this time. But luckily, we'd made enough improvements to the
Let
system.
me ask you guys this: have you guys read the omnibus bill for next year?
I don't have time in a year to read that.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough time in a year to read all
4,000 page bill.
I went through it, and I found about 15 things in there that are frightening. And one of the most frightening things in there, out of 1.7 trillion, there's 16 million. That's it. Okay. 16 million set aside for the grid. What's the number one problem why we can't run renewables? I think we ought to run renewables. Great. We need wind. We need solar. We need storage. The grid is the number one reason we can't. But yet we're going to spend 1.7 trillion. We're giving $1 bazillion out to, I think, 15 different other countries. We're paying for sexual orientation classes in other areas. And then there is another 22 million that may possibly be earmarked, but it's at the discretion of the DOE, Department of Energy, where that thing goes. So it's probably going to end up in some politician's back pocket rather than the grid. Even at that, we need $900 billion, whatever the number is, to repair our grid so we can use renewables. Let's all agree. Let's all get together and go, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, even by my standards.
Yeah, grid resilience and security is a big problem, no doubt about it. And Congress has been completely negligent on that for many years now.
Let me ask you this, that 16 million, is it for the grid here in Texas, or is that for like the national grid?
It would be it's a great question. It'd be the national grid, because ERCOT there are 3 main grid sections. There's one in the east, one in the west, and then they're broken up into what's called the balancing authority areas. And so each balancing authority is broken up into, several of them that are smaller. And ERCOT is the one that is the most independent in its own. So I'm guaranteeing you that they ain't going to get a dime out of that.
Well, I know here in Texas, 16 million would not even put a dent in redoing the grid, let alone 16 million for the United States. So that right there is, now don't get me wrong, $16 million is a lot of money. Okay. Before I say anything else, but so that doesn't even get a freaking set of hammers as far as when the government's concerned.
He said hammers,
and come on, the best line in Independence Day was, you don't really think a toilet seat costs $25,000 and a hammer costs $50,000, do you? It's like, but that's what our money is going towards. And so that's not helping out. That's really almost adding salt to a wound if there was one. And Stu, you also said it correctly, that we don't have the storage. that was something I had asked David about, and I got to give Mr. Blackman there the credit for it, because I asked him this question, which was, okay, during ERCOT, there was no solar being used. And so that means during the summer, what happens to all that solar that we're getting? Because it's Texas, for goodness sake. Let's talk about the great state of Texas. It gets hot. People have solar panels. There's energy created. But David pointed out there is no way to store that energy, which then in cases like this weekend, guess what? We had no way to use any of it because it just disappears or goes somewhere else. Is that correct, David?
Well, yeah. I mean, so one thing about this storm that we had this time, it wasn't really a storm. It was a blue northern. There was no precipitation with it, virtually none. And so the skies were pretty clear for most of the day on Thursday. And if you had adequate battery backup storage, you could have stored a lot of the power that was generated by solar for it to generate overnight from the batteries. But we don't have that. We don't have it. And the wind and solar industries refuse to take any responsibility for us not having it, saying, well, it's those battery people's fault. And so, we just haven't developed the technology adequately to provide the scaled backup to help solar and wind actually provide electricity into the grid when weather conditions aren't right for them. And supposedly that'll come eventually, but we've been promised that for 20 years now, and it just barely exists.
David, you interviewed Tom Jensen with Fry Battery, and one of the things I loved in that interview is that Fry Battery has got renewable battery technology. I vote for Fry.
Solid state lithium ion batteries.
Yeah, and they can be reused. I'm all in for Fry, in the storage area. I think it's great.
But our problem is, Stu, that we have built out so much capacity that the grid managers, that is unbacked up capacity, right? It's just purely dependent on the weather. And so the grid managers at ERCOT are left with these computer models that tell them, well, you can expect to get 8 megawatts from wind on Thursday. But if the wind stops blowing for whatever reason out in West Texas and you only get 2, then ERCOT's left short, and you have a problem with adequate generating capacity on the grid. And that's what happened to us in Winter Storm Uri in 2021. Wind and solar dropped completely off the grid when that storm blew through. And ERCOT was expecting 6 to 8 megawatts being up and running. And so, boom, all of a sudden they're stopped short, and you have this cascading issue. Then ERCOT going into rolling blackout mode, cutting off power to all these natural gas facilities in West Texas, and they're freezing up. And then the power plants freeze up because they're not getting the natural gas. And it was just this domino effect.
Perfect storm.
It was a perfect storm. It really was the perfect storm. And luckily, this one that we had this past weekend wasn't quite perfect. Thank goodness.
Good. Well, as the late, great Saturday Night Live character Rosanna Dana would say, well, if it ain't one thing, it's something else. There's always something else.
Her father, Stan Rosanna Dana, used to always say,
She was a classic.
But no, again, I guess coming back to it is, again, I am for any form of energy. We just need it to be reliable, inexpensive, and bountiful. And once again, during this cold front, this big cold front, it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't anything goodness. There was no precipitation here in North
Was that
Texas.
the invasion from Canada? Did you say it was an invasion? Do we need a bigger border wall so that we don't have that invasion?
We probably do. Need to go ahead and spend money on that. But you're absolutely right. Look, it's just that, once again, natural gas was the big that had our back, that watched out for us during this big cold front we just had over the weekend.
Yes,
that's it. No, that's all I wanted to say. We move on. Hey, did you shave?
Oh, we were waiting on something brilliant.
No, did you shave?
Huh?
Who?
Did you shave?
Me?
Oh yeah, it's
No,
flesh.
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
his head. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, but
mine
at
just
least
fell
you get-
out. I don't have to shave.
Oh yeah, but did you get your back shaved, RT?
I got it done. Yes, got it done in time for New Year's.
Yeah, it's not a Brazilian; it's a Texan. But one of the things I want to ask you on California is that Newsom. Can you see the lights flickering? It was. I think
Okay,
Newsom
yeah,
heard
I
me
was wondering
making a
what was
joke.
going on there.
Yeah, Newsom heard me. But they were saying now that even the solar panels on your roof, they are stopping people from selling it back to the grid because of the grid problems. I read that last
Yeah, in
week.
California, yeah.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, David, it was kind of like that might have been your article since I steal all your material.
No, it wasn't mine. Wasn't mine. It was
Yeah,
RT's.
so
Yeah, that was
yeah,
mine. If it had to do because I'm such an expert on California, let me
But I
tell
read
you.
the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, we have to
You
give a
know,
shout out.
can
We have
you
to give a
imagine?
shout out for our buddy Mike Imbro and JP Warren. Those are some cool cats.
They are, yeah, they're doing those energy fact chats with JP Warren and Mike Umbro. And now Mike Umbro, he is an expert there in what's going on in California. Why? Because he lives and breathes California. And I liked what he said the other day. And I actually saw somebody that was proud to be a Californian. He goes, "Hey, I was born here, I live here, and I want to make this place
Well, sure.
great
Yeah.
again." And it was nice to see because all I ever hear is about the great state of Texas and how everybody loves being here. So it was nice to see somebody actually have, because I never see anybody have that kind of pride with Oklahoma, let alone New Mexico. But no, he is a very good expert in what's going on there in California. And yeah, shout out to those guys and that great new little podcast that they're doing. I say little, but it's not. It's probably already blown up knowing those two guys.
Won't be as big as ours.
No.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, we covered an awful lot today. David, what's your thought for 2023?
Oh my gosh. Hopefully it'll be better than 2022, but the odds are not looking great. I just, I hope we all manage to survive it. The energy situation is going to get worse because Western governments want it to get worse, actively want it to. And they're succeeding, and the Biden administration's part of that. And we got to have elections start going the right way, or we're just all going to be living cold in the dark in the wintertime.
You mean the right way, or getting to see my granddad and my great granddad on the voting rosters for Democrats again?
Yeah, man, don't even talk to me about my relatives.
Yeah, they're all voting Democrat, even now. It's like, okay, anyway, RT, what is your thoughts on 2023?
That we're gonna knock it out in 2023. I can see some great things happening with David Blackman and what he's got going on with the energy question, what he's doing there, and the guests he's bringing on. What you and the Sandstone Group are going to be doing in 2023 as a whole, Stu. I'm really excited about that. Then I'm excited about my little show, The Crude Truth, and where we're going to be going. But more importantly, from a financial aspect, we're really looking forward to 2023. And you guys said it, because we don't know where oil and gas is going, that we have an administration that is anti-oil. So I only see oil going up. And we will probably average $100 in 2023. So we've got a very large commitment at Pecos Country Operating to drill 10 wells. And that'll be the most that we've ever drilled in a year. And again, we're a small family company, but we're very excited about that. And we're gonna push into that in 2023. Not necessarily putting all our chips in on the table, so to speak, but we're going to be very. I think the proper word is bullish. Is that correct? On oil? And we want to produce as much as we can for about the next 18 months, because God willing, we will see some changes in this administration, and the prices will probably go back down to $65, $75. But until then, as my father always says, earn as much as you can while you can.
I like that. RT, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Oh, well, anyway, always at thecrudetruth.com, or if y'all had ever any oil and gas questions, you can also hit me up at pcoperating.com, and that's for Pecos Country Operating. Who would have thought that in 2020, pcoperating.com would still be available? But hey, it was, so we took it.
Nice. And David, what's they can follow you on Forbes. They can follow you at your dbenergy.com, I believe is your website.
Yeah. And at
And
YouTube and all over
and
the place.
then also on your LinkedIn. And again,
Substack
for
too.
my compadres, you can find all of my news stories that I could care less about. I mean, that I'm trying to have fun with on energynewsbeat.com. Send in your questions, and I'm really happy with the growth increase on all of our podcasts. So thanks, guys, for stopping by.
Thank you.